to create more offspring.
See, there you go, folks. There's our religious tidbit right there for the show for tonight. So, hey, folks, what's going on? MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel podcast. It is 9/20/2024. It is a Friday. We are here in conjoinment, not with our sister tonight, but with the Rogue Geek podcast to do the Lord of the Rings Rings of Power episode 6. Obviously, we're covering the series after we covered season 1. We got J-Red 2000 back. He's knocking out the whole show with us, knocking it out, knocking it up. Right, J-Red?
Absolutely.
In preparation for, as we were discussing earlier, some really great opportunities, hopefully, and Podcast Odyssey. So, guys from the Rogue Geek podcast, welcome, gentlemen. It's good to have you back on the show. Did I lose you guys? Oh, they went frozen right when I talked to them. How about that? Don't you love when that happens? They'll come back. So, guys, I thought episode 6 was a really big improvement over episode 5. They really tightened it up, even though there wasn't any action, really. They really tightened up the story. And they switched over, they went back over to my girls, Poppy and Nori. You know what I'm saying? Which is always good for the show. What do you think, Cyber?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good improvement, and I thought it was a really solid episode.
That's what I'm saying. I did not like that dude trying to make moves on Poppy, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what he's thinking. Poppy's my shit. What do you think, J-Rat?
It definitely was a better episode. I was interested the whole time, and there was no I don't want to say there's no downtime because the whole show was downtime, but it was less downtime than we're used to. It was a good episode. I liked it.
Good. That's good to hear. You guys are back. All right. Rogue Geek Podcast. Hey, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hey, how's it going?
Hopefully that'll be your only drop off during the show, hopefully.
Yeah, right at the beginning. That's the way to do it.
Episode 6 was a good contrast. It was a much better episode than episode 5 was what I was just saying. What'd you guys think?
Oh, I thought it was a solid episode as well. I think episode 5 and 6 were both. I think they were both heavy hitters. So it's good to see that as we go into the final stretch.
Episode 5 was a little. It was a little tough. It was a little tough for me. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my opinion, though. Does anybody else want to opine, gentlemen?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was a super solid episode this week. We got to see, a lot of things kind of. You're starting to really see the ball moving, for the season, and you're seeing everything kind of you're getting pulled in. Like a lot of the things that might be turning into happening are on the way right now. You can really tell that they're working in towards a finale.
Yeah, I thought it was a stellar episode, so I'm excited to break it down.
Me too.
Fine, gentlemen.
And I just to be clear, folks, we appreciate all of you out there that support the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. I'm working off of a article from the fantasyreviews.com tonight for my outline, just to give proper due to the source material. The spoiler-free review of Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 6 is much better than what we've seen so far. There's no dawdling, no wasted scenes or dialogue. Everything we see moves the story forward and develops a character or plotline. The show still fails to show Saran as a great deceiver. It tells us he is repeatedly, but the writing of his dialogue is not up to the task. So the episode opens with a contractually obliged elf running through the woods. Arondir happens upon 2 orc defectors from Adar's army and then is beset upon by a third. He kills all 3 easily and finds a map on one of them, revealing Adar's intentions. That's the subtle way the show is going to bring Arondir to the battle at Eregion, I presume. So moving forward, much of the plot, Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 6 focuses on Eregion and Celebrimbor. The Elven Smiths and Celebrimbor have failed so far to make the 9 rings for men, and Celebrimbor is losing his mind over it. So Antar sutters in with a dramatic costume change, which I love. Instead of pure light colors, he now wears black lined with gold, indicating the eventual reveal of his true nature. Merdania, the elf who looks like Galadriel, calls Celebrimbor ill-tempered to his face, which was a bold move. He forgets her name, and everyone is quite shocked. But to be fair, I had to look it up too. Anatar tells everyone to leave, and the rest he assures Celebrimbor before leaving to address the people of Eregion in the elf's place. Verdania and some others take him to a gate where no one has come for days, except the body, with "Where is he?" carved into its torso. It doesn't sound like a good omen. Anatar then tells Verdania that the Smiths have been relieved from their duties by Celebrimbor, which of course they haven't. This sets the stage for Sauron's final deceit in Eregion. And I'll stop there. That is the opening. And I'll go over to you gentlemen first to start off the show at the Rogue Geek. I'll start with you, Justin. What are your thoughts on the opening? And then you just go right down the line amongst the three of you until we move our way over to Cyber and J-Red.
Yeah, sure. So Celebrimbor, the introduction to him, and he's like kind of, you can tell he's strained, like mentally strained, and the rings are the desire to complete these rings is truly getting to him, and I think it's a really good contrast of what we've seen so far in the series, like because Celebrimbor has usually been that guy who's kind of, he knows what he's doing, he's all together, like he's very proud and humble, like that kind of thing, but not really. I mean, humble in a joking kind of way. He's not really that humble. He's like braggy, but he definitely something's off. And then Anatar, you can like, he's pulling the strings here, and he does what he does best, and it's manipulation. And like this guy is next level manipulator, and the way he has woven his own thoughts into Celebrimbor, and just even the Smiths too. Like he's Merdania, like he's got her on his side too, and so now like Celebrimbor is really, he's getting it from like all ends, and that's why it's kind of driving him mad. And then just seeing him start to topple over the weight of the rings has I thought that was just incredible to see this opening scene.
Yeah, I think Celebrimbor's like, so the actor is Charles Edwards, is that what it said?
Yeah, for Brimbor.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like he was like, his performance was probably just acting chops, like probably the best performance of the episode. I think.
For sure.
Just the way he looks so distressed. He is tripping. You know? He looks like a dementia patient, honestly, at times. And just like the way that Anatar, like, or Sauron, you know, like tricks him with his own hammer.
Yes.
You know, like he is just, these are all his Anatar's pets. Like he is just pulling so many strings, and he's puppets, I should say, actually. But the deception throughout like this whole episode with Sauron, with Anatar, and how he is just working this angle. And really it's, you know, I don't know if we're getting here just yet, but Galadriel kind of catches onto it. Like this is what he wanted all along. And anytime it looks like the battle's about to happen, where the orcs are on their way, you just see this kind of like slight smirk in his face. You know, he's getting exactly what he wants. Just a guy that is fully in control. It's wild. And also one more thing, the way he like changes the whole scene outside when Celebrimbor walks outside, when he's distressed, thinking he heard a siege alarm. And he's just, I don't know, he's like using the reality stone or something. Like, I don't know how he.
We're not that far yet, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like that was crazy. So, yeah, man. And Arondir, can't wait till he like, you know, we get like a little appetizer of him at the very beginning, and then he kicks some ass, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. This what is happening right here, because at the beginning of the series, you know, Celebrimbor, or when Celebrimbor and Sauron meet originally when he's out Halbrand, you know, Celebrimbor's, you know, obviously the top dog, and Halbrand / Sauron / Anatar is like this at best apprentice, and then over time you're just seeing them kind of level out a little bit more, and now you're seeing it turn the other way. And Anatar is taking all this power and all this control over the things that Celebrimbor used to have all this control over, and he used to be the authority. He was the person you went to when it came to elven smiths. And so, and you're just seeing like everyone's just his own smiths are starting to turn and see Anatar as the as the entity that they need to pay attention to and you know, he's making Celebrimbor seem so unhinged. He is in a lot of ways, but Antar is pushing the narrative so hard right now and making him look even more unhinged than he even is.
Cyber, your thoughts on the intro?
Really solid intro to the episode. I really enjoyed it. You know, I think that just like the World Geek Podcast mentioned, the performance by Celebrimbor has been fantastic, and this particular episode he was really good, especially showing the stress and all the weight of the ring coming down on him in this episode. And I think right at the beginning here, you see it right off the bat, and I think it was so well done. And I think he did a really good job of showing, you know, kind of, you know, this actor, he has some decent chops that he can actually perform pretty well. And so I think we got to see that right off the get-go in this episode. And then just like, you know, everyone else kind of mentioned, we have that brief encounter with Mr. Knight, Mr. Elf himself, Arondir, and you know, we get that brief kind of little battle, which was interesting. And you know, but I mean, pretty much the beginning portion of this episode is a great kind of just continuation of finally giving us that information that we were looking for in the last episode that we didn't really get. Like, as you have mentioned, Jeff, about, you know, not getting any Poppy and stuff like that. We start to finally get that rolling and giving us more information on where we had left them off in episode 4. So I think that this is a decent start. I think it's really not, I don't feel that it was very slow right at the beginning. I thought it had really good pacing at first. And I think that all around, it just really worked really well, and, you know, started off the episode really fun.
Nice.
You're muted, Jeff. I don't know what you're doing.
He's just staring at me.
Ta-da! J-Rat.
Yeah,
sorry. I'm sorry, brother. My bad.
It's all right. You're looking at me, and I was looking at you, and you were like, "What is this guy doing?"
He was looking at me. I was looking at him.
Did the wizards come out in the beginning of it?
No, that happened later. That was later.
I mean, I saw it. I saw this episode, so I just don't remember the order of everything that came in. That elf, I forgot, what's his name? The one that comes out in the beginning?
Arondir.
I am so disinterested in that character, like, because he doesn't come out enough. Like, I think he had some time, and just like he came in, and I was like, okay, let's get to these other characters. Like, in my head, that's just me. You know, then we get to where they're trying to make the 9 rings, and then we find out about the impurities. We need more silver. We don't have no mithril. You know, that stuff. The character of Sauron, you know, pretending to be an elf, and then the changing of the clothes that you mentioned. Yeah, I like the I want to say that's like the symbolism, right? The symbolizing all of that stuff. I like symbolism and all that kind of things that they show there. This show brings us to the precipice, the cusp of like the finale that's coming up in these next episodes, because this is where it's starting, you know, where we don't have the 9 rings yet. You know, he's playing tricks on this guy, driving him crazy, and I don't know how that's supposed to help him create these extra 9 rings. Is these 9 rings with him in duress making these supposed to make those rings like really like tainted? Is that the goal? I really don't know. You know, you would think like, oh, I want him on his A game to make these rings, but he's doing the exact opposite. So I'm assuming putting him in some, you know, mental strain is going to taint these rings to make them more worse is not the word, but more worse.
Like corrupted.
More, much more corrupted than the dwarf rings, you know, because, and especially with men, you know, according to the Lord, above all desire power. So having these mega corrupted 9 rings for men who are already corrupted is like exactly what he needs. And as you move forward and you think about it to Lord of the Rings, who are the ones that were his henchmen? It was the 9 men, right? The Wraiths or the Wraiths or whatever they're called. Those were the ones that he called upon. So I'm assuming that's what's going on there. Like if anybody didn't notice that, I don't know.
Thank you, J-Ron. Thank you for being our Lord of the Rings, like holding it down for Lord of the Rings week by week. We appreciate it.
I mean, I have to add it in there because I mean, that's where if for
no,
me,
that's the facts. That's the origins of the shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the bottom line. The ring race come from these rings. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where they come from. Like that's the whole. That's the one of the actual positive aspects of the Lord of the Rings moniker being involved with the show is that we do have the influences on the Lord of the Rings in the show. Right. They do have certain aspects of the show that do play into that story. Which is a really cool connection. It's just unfortunately there's not a lot of connections. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like anyways, I digress. So back to the episode. Later in the episode, the orcs march on Eregion, and Annatar hides the siege from Celebrimbor with a vision. Annatar convinces Celebrimbor to continue working on the 9 rings for men with what we can only assume is not mithril, but something else. He convinces him by saying that in comparison to the rings they make, the Silmarils will be nothing but a whisper, forgotten to history. This is probably the closest the writers on the show have come to actually showing us how genius Sauron's manipulation is. So in episode 5, we see Galadriel captured by Adar. Now at his camp, Adar tries to get Galadriel to join him and his orcs against Sauron over a romantic candlelit dinner. She initially refuses, but eventually relents. However, and this is the insane part, she actually tells him who has a ring. Well done. Adar then reveals his plan to attack Eregion and take her ring from Elrond. She warns Adar that his plan is what Sauron wants, but Adar ignores her. He believes he will destroy Sauron with his legions. After everything he has been saying earlier about how incredibly manipulative Sauron is, you would think Adar would see that this is Sauron's plan and believe Galadriel. However, you have to assume that he's just blinded by fear and hatred of the enemy. In Númenor, Elendil stands before Ar-Pharazôn for the crime of high treason. Elendil is forced to renounce his crimes, but he refuses to accept Ar-Pharazôn as his true king. Elendil is one of the best castings of the show. He looks and sounds like a hero, and they have done plenty with his character development to make him look like his descendant, Aragorn, as we see him in Peter Jackson's movies. That certainly helps us like him more. I'll skip past this. Anyway, so later on in the dungeon somewhere, Elendil's made-up daughter announces to her father that he is to be cast into the sea to face trial by abyss. He refuses to go back on his actions. But that crafty made-up daughter has a trick up her sleeve. She brings in Miriel, who attempts to convince Elendil to bow to Ar-Pharazôn, but he refuses again. He will not accept the lie of Ar-Pharazôn's legitimacy. So I'll stop there, and I'll flip it around, and I'll go back to you, J-Rat 2000. Your thoughts on that passage of the episode, sir?
It was all interesting. I like the whole putting him up to trial to go to do that whole Clash of the Titans scene where they put him in the water and that monster comes out. Isn't that what you said? You brought it up about.
I didn't go that far.
Didn't? Well, I'm going. No, I'm just.
Jesus Christ. Oh, you're going that far? Oh,
no.
Jesus Christ.
Let me rewind back. You briefly mentioned it, and I stuck to it. So
I didn't mention that shit. Fuck you.
You did. You mentioned about the trial. You said something about it.
I mentioned that they call the ceremony or whatever the meet with the abyss or some shit.
Close enough.
Whatever, sir.
Okay, so we'll go back. Yeah, where she's captured, then he releases her. He tries to. I don't want to say I didn't take it as a seduce. I'm guessing that was sarcasm, but just to be civil, have a conversation.
What is up with Jasmine always talking about me on the toilet? all the time. The fuck is that all about? J-Rat, the hell?
So, Jeff, I call you during the weekend, currently sitting on the toilet enjoying your show. Oh, okay. So,
Rat,
I mean,
we don't need to hear about you being on the toilet all the time, Rat.
he's using his free time to, check you out.
I guess.
That's kind of like an honor, you know what I mean? Because when I'm in the toilet, like it's just usually just me,
Oh my God. And now you're going back to that eating cat shit again, too? Oh my God. Enough with the eating cat shit, man. We get it. It's funny. It was funny before, but now it's not funny anymore. Come on now. Get some new material.
He lives in he must be voting for Trump.
Yeah, that's right. True.
Okay. All right. So we'll go back to Lord of the Rings because I get distracted very easily and I will go to the comments all day. Yeah, it's a civil conversation. They have a mutual enemy. He talks to her. She talks to him. Tells her about the ring, where her ring is at. And then she kind of snaps at the end of like that whole, scene about like, wait a minute. One thing he doesn't have an army, and then he brings up the crown and then the rings of power, like, oh, we can use these to destroy him. So he's taking these things to Sauron. You know what I mean? And then that's when she's like, he's got these, but he doesn't have an army. And then she sees all, these orcs in the background and all this stuff. And then she realizes, that that's what he wants. But by that time, again, too late. He's got his own idea in mind, like, how can he defeat me when I've got this big old army behind me? There's no way that he's going to woo them into my side. But obviously there's a plan that the army is somehow going to turn on him, and that was part of his plan. You can skip me now.
Thank you, sir. Cyber, I was actually I don't know what was going on with Galadriel. That spread that was put out in front of her with the orcs was looking pretty good, and she didn't eat nothing. I don't know what was wrong with her, man.
Well, if you are captured and then given a proposition to join the person who just captured you, I don't know how hungry you'd be at that moment. So I don't know if she didn't find it, looking good, or if it was an elf thing. I don't know. Could have been many different things. But
that is it just me, or does that actress? Is it just her because she's playing this character, or is it just her that she has like this air of like, especially in this scene, she has this air of like bitchiness about her. You ever notice that as a character, that she just has this like insufferable air about her at times, like where she's just like, anything you say, she just bristles almost.
Pretty sure that's just being an elf.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think she's just always been bougie since like the beginning of the season 1 and 2. She's high maintenance.
She got her elf period.
maybe.
Elves are like, really every species, every race in this world is pretty racist to others' kind. So I can see it. It makes sense how she would like not eat their food. Yeah. I think it's just like a very elf thing to do from my perspective.
Not me. I'm not racist. I'll sling it to a hobbit chick, an elf chick. I don't give a fuck. Right there you go, Cyber.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Cyber.
You're welcome. Anyways, the sequence where we finally get back to Galadriel, it is really fun. I really enjoyed the whole sequence. I like that we got more time with those two characters. And as soon as she popped up, all I could think of was, oh, I'm sure Jeff is happy as fuck. He's so happy they finally came back, that this character is back here. And he's probably sitting and watching it going, getting all giddy and shit. And so I was like, just really drawn into that sequence and really paid attention to what he was saying and what she was saying, and really felt like there was more to that conversation than what we saw, and that there's more to what he's trying to propose that we haven't seen what really his ultimate intentions are. And later on the episode, we'll find out a little more, but that whole sequence was just really, I thought, entertaining and really fun. going from there, the rest of the basically the kind of the plot section there leading up to where you concluded, I think it's pretty good. I mean, most of it was very, I thought, insightful, very entertaining. I liked what was going on, and I think overall, just there was so many great little kind of Easter eggs or like information they were giving you to really help the story along finally that we didn't get in the last episode. So I think they did a really good job with that section of the episode, giving us a lot of great information to really progress the story along.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, I'll flip you around this time. We'll start with you, Amato.
Okay. So I feel like in that dinner that they were having, first of all, I just want to say I feel like Adar is actually like a really reasonable like ruler in all this. He actually may be like one of the more reasonable rulers that's going on. Like he seems to be trying to. He has a very defined purpose, and he seems to be trying to carve out this area for his people. And he seems to really want to get rid of what he thinks is evil, which is, Sauron, which should be everyone's idea. I think the main thing that he's fighting against is that people don't want to be friendly with orcs. I think that's the biggest issue that they're having. And to that end, I think Galadriel, she like misses his opportunity because when they're at dinner, like he keeps on trying to push, like try to be like, hey, we really need to work together. We really need to be together and work towards this goal. And then I think kind of what happens is it's almost like if he were to ask her out on a date like 20, 30 times, and this guy is just trying to ask this girl out, and she just keeps on saying no and keeps on saying no and keeps on saying no. And then like the 31st time, she's like, well, why didn't you ask me out the 31st time? That's kind of how I felt like the last thing that was on was happening when she was trying to get him to listen, because like that whole dinner she was refusing to like listen or compromise with him at all, or even really treat him like an equal. And then all of a sudden at the very end she's like, oh, now I want to be equals with you when I have something that I want to tell you. When she's like, oh, I mean, it's a good point that she's bringing up, but the thing is she loses all the goodwill that she could have had if she had just treated Adar like he was like a person worth talking to. So I feel like that was like, I feel like it was partially her fault that he didn't listen at the end, because he didn't want to listen to her because she had been just so dismissive of everything that he was doing, so that's how I felt about that interaction. And then the Elendil and his daughter, I think it's Eregion, is her like the pronunciation of her name. I think that's something like that. Who is by far one of my bottom 3 characters. I cannot stand her as a character. I don't
Not
know.
as bad as Theo though, right?
It's getting close. Like at least this season she's done worse than Theo.
That's true. That's actually true.
She's been a worse.
She's the new Theo.
She's a female Theo. Like, and to tell you the truth, actually, the Farazan's son has done worse than
God. That guy makes me want to break my television.
But that's either here or there right now. And I don't know. I feel like his sister, the daughter, just like doesn't even understand her father at all. Like she grew up in this house. She should know how he feels about these things. Like how what he stands by, how he feels. And I feel like she's either just so blind to it and is so enthralled by Farazan and like so fearful of the elf influence in Númenor, or she just does not understand her father at all. Like it's just, I don't know. It's very obvious, like the path that he has gone down. He hasn't wavered. He's not sending mixed messages about how he feels about things. He's been straightforward this whole time, and she keeps on thinking that he's going to do something that isn't the path that he has been going on. And I don't know. I feel like she's also just trying to corner the market on like pain, like Isildur wasn't his son as well as her brother, and like all these times she's bringing up all these things about missing her brother and stuff like that. And it's like, well, Elendil is going through the same things. That's his son. He still has these same things, but he understands that his principles need to still be stood by.
Yeah, it's good. So going back to, well, I agree with you on everything with happening in Númenor. But I want to go back to Adar and Galadriel. Like, I'm so intrigued by what you said, because coming into, when I watched the episode and thinking about coming in this podcast, I was like, man, the way I viewed it up until you were speaking, Amato, was Adar was trying to play her the whole time. And eventually, and I think you can maybe argue it, that this may be what is actually happening, that Adar was actually trying to play her. She eventually like spilled the beans on where her ring is, what the plan is, and what's happening. But ultimately, he too doesn't trust elves, just like elves don't trust orcs. And I thought it's like he did such a good job of that at the beginning of their conversation, where, yeah, it seems like he's he seems like one of the most level-headed characters in the whole show, you know?
Yeah.
But the more you were talking, the more I'm thinking, yeah, you know, she was not chained up for the beginning part of that conversation. And when she continuously, he even says like something about be willing to put your pride aside. And she doesn't budge for like the longest time. He then puts the shackle back on her, and then she comes around. So I actually do wonder, I think you might, to get to the point you're at, I feel like you have to read between the lines a little bit, because it also feels like, I feel like there's a part where, you know, you could argue that he was just trying to play her the whole time, but I really like your interpretation, because I think I like Adar a lot. But I will say, if he was just trying to play her the whole time, then he's no better than her.
Yeah.
The big problem is elves don't trust anyone else, and orcs don't trust anyone else. And if they want to defeat the greatest evil, they're really going to have to work together.
Yeah. I feel like Adar is one of the straightest shooters in the entire series, truthfully.
Yeah, he just wants peace in Mordor, man. He's like, leave us alone.
Yeah.
Like, y'all leave Mordor alone, man. Ain't done nothing wrong yet.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, you all mentioned a bunch of good things. I'm not going to go and like double up on them. I just want to mention one thing, and then we can move on. But I know the scene where Elendil is in the dungeon, and his daughter brings in Miriel, the queen, the former queen. And I just think the loyalty that he has for her, like the undying loyalty of like her being the true queen, and then her to just like look at him and be like, you need to like bow your knee to Farasan, and he still refuses. Like, he's still, even his queen is giving him a directive, and he's like, no, like I support you as the one true queen. And then her to flip the script on him and be like, well, then I'm gonna go in your place, like that kind of thing. Like, and then the look on his face, like when she did that, like she obviously couldn't see it because she's blind, but but he was like, this can't happen. This is wrong. And then the daughter is so quick to like drag her out of there. Like, oh, yep, she's going. Like, we're gonna do that. We're gonna throw her, sacrifice her to the abyss. And so I just thought that was a really cool interaction about how like loyalty on both sides. Like the queen saw how loyal Elendil has been up to this point, like to the point of like he's being honestly, he's being destroyed by his family and Farasan, and everybody is like turned their back on him, and he's this like high captain. And the queen actually realizes that. So I guess shows a bit of her character as well. Like, she's not power hungry. Like, she's somebody for the people. And I think this is what Elendil is trying to show everybody, is like the queen is staying true to her character, and Farasan is the one going out of control. So that's, I mean, I thought that was great.
He's literally had everything stripped from him.
Yeah. So anyway, that's good. Jeff.
Okay. So, as just was just mentioning, during Elendil's trial at sea, Miriel swoops in at the last moment and takes Elendil's place. If she survives, it is what the Valar want. So she goes into the sea, is surrounded by the tentacles of the sea worm, and is spat back onto the shore alive. Everyone starts chanting her name. I am confused. So what? She's queen now? Do the people on this island take the eagle for Pharazôn to heart, only to now switch suddenly back to Miriel? It certainly looks that way, but hopefully we won't go around in circles. I'm sure Elfhelzeron will go full crazy now, trying to kill everyone, especially after the scene with him angrily looking into the Palantir, where he sees a bunch of crazy shit, like the future and Sauron and all kinds of shit. So I waited 2 weeks to see more of Tom Bombadil, the Stranger, and the Harfoots. And what we get is very little. They're forcing this plot into gaps of time that shouldn't even be there, and that sucks for several reasons. The main one being that this is the most interesting plot in the whole show. Again, this is of opinion of fantasyreviews.com. Not Gandalf is with Tom Bombadil and sees a vision of Nori in trouble. I love Tom Bombadil's portrayal in the show. If there was something that they got right in Rings of Power, it is this. And the stranger's journey, wishing to master his power, when we can all see he needs only work with it, becoming the master over something that is not how the light works in Middle-earth. I love this exploration of the nature of Middle-earth and desperately want more of it. Essentially, what we see in the episode is Tom Bombadil taking the stranger, not Gandalf, to like an area where he can find the staff, and then just disappears. He pulls a Batman on the shit.
Yeah.
It's dope. So this is the ultimate classic fantasy storyline, and no one can tell me otherwise. Not Gandalf is sent on a quest by Tom Bombadil to find his true staff so he can harness the power of the secret fire. Has anything ever sounded more classic fantasy than this? It doesn't feel deep like Tolkien's work, but it certainly feels like something Terry Brooks or David Edding would have written, and I'm here for it. I'll stop there before we get into Nori and Poppy. My favorites. Nori and Poppy, the team. World Geek Podcast. Justin, your thoughts on that big chunk of the episode there, sir?
Yeah, I did think the CGI for the sea worm and just her underwater, I enjoyed that. I thought it did look really well done. I think Amazon definitely put the budget in there to do like the underwater CGI. And so I really appreciated that. And then when they started chanting her name, it did kind of trigger me. Like I was like, is she queen now, or is Pharazôn still like the king? Like what's going on here? Like, I mean, Pharazôn, he became the king. Like he skipped the primaries. He didn't need the primaries. Like Pharazôn just like the eagle anointed him, and there you go. That's what he was. But now I feel like it's going to cause a vote. I feel like it's going to be down to like the people of Númenor are going to have to decide down to like a vote to figure it out, because the sea worm has Dawn, the queen, as the rightful heir.
And by vote, you mean civil war, right?
Justin, I don't mean to cut you off, but you know what? I've really neglected the dwarf storyline during the episode. So really quick, let me just mention that, so you can mention on your own, that at this point in the episode, we have touched on the storyline of the dwarves. And we've seen scenes with Durin, the first, and Durin, the second, and all that. And we've seen King Durin being affected by the ring, and we've also seen our favorite character Disa, doing all kinds of crazy shit, and hanging out with Durin and stuff like that and whatnot. So I just want to mention that dwarf storyline, so you can go there too.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So yeah, like going back to Númenor real quick, and then I'll move on to that one. But yeah, I do think it's going to come down to a vote / civil war. It's going to be something. It's going to be chaos, and I'm here for the Númenor storyline. I think it has some potential there if they can stick the landing. And then the Tom Bombadil and the Stranger. I do kind of feel like this is just kind of sucking up some scenes. I feel like there's a lot of storylines going on in this world that they've built so far that I want to pay more attention to. And I do kind of feel like the Tom Bombadil and the Stranger, I think this is kind of like planting the seeds for like season 3 storyline. And so like, it's kind of just feels out of place a little bit. Because at this point, I cannot fathom how the storylines can connect between the Stranger and Nori and Poppy to the rest of the world. And so like, even in Lord of the Rings, like everything was connected and they were all working towards like the same type of goal. Like, but right now it feels like it's just like a standalone, but I can see everybody else. Like I can see like Isildur and Arondir's, I can see their storyline connecting with the Númenors and then eventually the war with the orcs, but I don't see the importance there. So I think it's kind of like leading into season 3.
It's just like geographically.
Yeah, exactly too. It's like it's too far out of the picture. And then Durin and Disa and just what they're dealing with the greed of the king, especially when Anatar comes and he's asking for more mithril. And he's like, at first says no, and during the fourth is just like, oh, good, Dad, I'm glad you turned him down. And he's like, no, if he's really desperate, he's going to come and we can ask for whatever we want. And just like the corruption and the power of the ring that it's having over during the third is just absolutely cool to see, because he wasn't like that in the first season. He was kind of like a grumpy old man, but now he's taking it to a level of like,
But all dwarves are.
Well, I mean, yeah, all dwarves are grumpy, but he's just like that, the king of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's kind of like taking it to a whole new game now. He's like, there's gold piling up all around him. Like there's just like, it's just like he's Scarface now, dude. He's like living in the mounds of cocaine and mansions and stuff like that. So yeah, no. But then like when Disa, it tries to stop them from mining deeper, and she's just kind of standing there in the caverns, and she's just like lets out that scream. I'm like, go Disa, man. Like you're the only one doing something down here to fight back to the king and all of his greed. Cause like Navi or whatever the dwarf smith, he was like, you gotta move out of the way, we gotta do this, and she like just lets out this amazing sound and just scares them all away. But yeah, I'm enjoying that the dwarf storyline for sure.
All right, real quick, Bombadil, the stranger, which again I'm putting my feet in the sand, and I'm saying that's not Gandalf still. I think that's gonna end up being Sauron. That's my prediction.
I like that. Yeah.
That's my prediction. But I agree that it feels so disconnected. But I'm interested in it. But like it feels like the writers feel like they need to keep coming back to it. I almost wouldn't mind. I know you love it, Jeff, like all the stuff with Nori and Poppy, but I almost feel like they should continue to tease us by not even, like getting to that storyline until later.
Yeah. Which
to some extent we're not getting much of it anyways, we got like one scene with the Harfoots, which I guess we'll get to later. But yeah, I love Bombadil's character. I love just his interaction with the stranger. But not much happened. Like that article said, he left him in a Batman style, I think Jeff said, and it's just stranger's got to figure out what his staff is going to be. Dwarves, I think the dwarves are some of my favorite part of the show. Disa is by far one of the strongest characters. I mean, her conviction is probably stronger than anyone. I made an interesting, I thought of something interesting. Prince Durin and Elrond, they're old buddies. And then they, like in season 1, like Elrond was trying to kind of win him back over. And it's just interesting that both of them, if you think about it, their worldview, they view the rings in the exact same way.
Oh, wow.
They are in perfect alignment about the rings. And I think that's actually a pretty cool thing to kind of, the show will kind of bring that to a head at some point where they both agree fully. I could even see a world where Elrond is still holding Galadriel's. Prince Durin somehow gets his father's ring, but neither of them are putting him on, because they're so committed to their conviction. So, there's a prediction there. And then what am I missing? Yeah, Númenor stuff. I mean, I think the sea worm part was cool. Yeah. Although I will say this, when Farazan, or the dude with the cool beard, who's the apparent king, when the eagle shows up, I left that scene thinking, what did that really mean for like Númenor? And then now the sea worm spits out the queen. And once again, I'm like, well, what does that really mean for Númenor? I feel like they're just almost intentionally not giving us answers on like who is the legitimate, like if
I think it's kind of the point.
It's pissing me off is what I'm trying to say. I'm confused. So anyways, those are my thoughts.
Starting with like Númenor, with the trial that they put her on, I feel like that was a huge misfire by Farazan as a leader, just because of the fact that like in my mind, there was no positive that could come out of this, because if she survives like she did, then there's a potential threat to his power, and you're kind of splitting, you're splitting Númenor's alliances. And if she dies, you sent a potential person in line to the throne to her death, and she's blind. Like that seems like a really like underhanded move that just like does not seem to have a huge political payoff to me. just from like the outside world. Like if you're going to have her like killed, like do it under like the cover of darkness. Have it be some sort of like, you know, subterfuge, something like that. Don't make it this huge spectacle to where essentially she becomes a martyr if she dies, especially since she was doing it in place of someone else.
You can do it. She can do it Shogun style and have a bunch of bandits
Yeah,
kill her
yeah,
in
right.
transport.
But yeah,
I
like
feel like he was trapped though. What other option did he have? Like when she shows up,
he shows mercy, and then he even sees even stronger because he is showing mercy in that moment to where he could have sent her to her death, but instead he chooses.
when she shows up to replace
Elendil.
at the trial, he was trapped. I'm saying he had no other option.
I'm saying he's the king. He always has an option.
Yeah, but earlier they said that he's trying to keep the favor of what's called the faithful, all the religious folk. And if he wouldn't have let her do that, then he would have lost. Like I'm saying, he's trapped where politically, like he had. I think he had no other option, which is why he looked at his kind of advisor and said, "Is it true?" And he said, "By letter of the law, yeah." I think he was just kind of screwed.
I mean, in that moment, I just would have been.
You just would have been a tyrant.
You just got to pull back from the ledge. Like, you know, I just don't feel like there was anything that was positive in that moment that he could have done. Going to the Tom Bombadil Stranger storyline, I kind of feel like he was kind of taking him on a similar to like a Yoda, Luke Skywalker path, in the sense of like they both had that essentially visions of friends in danger. You know, Luke had that same thing when they were on Dagobah, and the same thing happens with the stranger here and Poppy being in trouble. And it seems like they're kind of taking him down that path. And it's kind of like with the last episode, I brought up the idea that I kind of wish they maybe had split this series into two separate series. I just feel like at some points we're just like, we're not getting the payoff in a timely fashion for storylines, and we're just getting too much time separated between certain storylines to where, like, for example, Jay Rant was talking about how Arondir had kind of like fallen off of his radar as a character. I mean, he could be a very intriguing character, but I feel like he's just kind of gotten relegated because all these other storylines are, you know, taking the forefront right now. And and just real quick, I'll jump over to the dwarf storyline. I really love the Disa and during the fourth, like they're just collaboration. They make each other so strong together.
That scene when he looks at her and there's that pause and he's like, "I love you."
Yeah, like they keep each other upright. Like they are literally, they lean on each other so like hard. They make themselves so strong because they're both willing to say to each other, "I don't think you're right," and fight for what they think is right. Because, you know, we all have those moments where it's like you would think we're going down the right path, but sometimes you just need somebody to be like, "No, like this is not what you should be doing." And I feel like they both do that for each other, especially Disa. I think she has this incredible moral compass that like really like they're really shaping her up to be a phenomenal queen. Like just that person who is so strong next to the king and keeps him like on that straight path and gives him so much good counsel and just trust that is unbreakable.
It's good. Yeah.
J-Rap 2000.
What's going on, man? There was so much said there. I think a lot of those guys. You guys made a lot of really, really good points on that. You know, that aspect of the show. One of the things that had stuck in my head was when you brought up the eagle that showed up. I think that was supposed to be symbol for her, though, and I think he took that away from her.
Yeah.
So I think that was supposed to be for her. And he stole her thunder on that and used that against her because she even mentioned it. I think about the eagle showing up, symbolized for her as a good omen. And he was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And then so he stood right there to take that away from her. The scene where she's, taken underwater by the sea monster and, survives. I'm assuming, like, if you're there and you witness something like that, that's probably never happened, where someone survives, that it's probably like a super huge sign to be enough to flip the script in that aspect. Considering she former queen, and for that to happen, I think was I wasn't how do you say it? Like, oh, come on, like that's cheesy. I didn't see it that way. I felt like that was, if I was there in that scenario, if I think about it, I'd be like, whoa, I can't believe this has never happened. Like a 1 in a zillion chance no one's ever survived. They always die. So that I can see what happened there. And it didn't really mean that it changed, the power, because he was still there. He was still in charge, but she was a queen. So they started chanting her as the queen because she was the queen. So as far as what it does to that shift in power, we don't know yet, because you only get a piece of it. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he was pissed. I think he took it as like a win situation to get rid of her. So when she wanted to take his place, I felt like that was kind of a win for him to do that, because it allowed her to put herself in a position to eliminate herself, thinking that nobody survives this. So okay, that's what I saw. I don't know if anybody saw it that way, but it backfired. So not only did he wasn't able to kill that guy, but he wasn't able to get rid of the queen either. So now you got two people that you probably wish weren't there, still there. The loyal knight to the queen and the queen herself. So, and then moving on to a different scene where, we see the great, Bibbidi Bobbidi the wizard, and he's now talking to him and training him and telling him like about choosing the staff and what kind of wizard and all those things. And it's really cool. I don't know who he is, the stranger. I don't think he's either any of them. I don't think he has to be anybody that we've seen. I don't think he has to be Gandalf or Saruman. I'm okay with him being somebody completely different. We've got a bunch of new characters here, a bunch of elves that we've never heard of before. So I'm okay with him. He doesn't got to be somebody. We got a Saruman, Sauron already. We know who he is. So him being somebody mysterious and being someone completely new, I'm okay with. We got a bunch of new characters. The choice I thought was interesting when he told him about like, you can save your friend or you can continue your path. And I think you guys at the Royal Geek Podcast mentioned this about the Grogu scene in Skywalker, where he did it, like with Grogu, and he left him with that option to like choose your friends or choose destiny, your friends or the entire planet. Is basically how he said it. I never liked those ultimatums in shows, because it's like a really hard decision. Like how would you decide that? Like someone you care, you love, or that, I mean, is it a wrong choice to choose the earth, not the earth, but Middle Earth? Is it a wrong choice to choose your friend? I feel like he's going to choose his friend, and that was the right choice. Like, oh, your love for your friends is how you get started here. You pass the test. That's what I was waiting for, or it's maybe, will come later. What other stuff happened in that scene besides those two that dwarves. I'm missing? The dwarves. Yeah, we already know that the dwarf king is, corrupted, and you gradually saw it, transpiring, and you get to this point and he's like full blown greed mode. He's got all of a sudden now he's got gold around him, and now he's using Mithril as a what do you call it? A
bargaining chip. Yeah.
Bargaining chip, and it was kind of interesting because I didn't see it coming either when he was like, no, we're not going to give you the Mithril, and then Sauron's like, all right, he takes off. Cool. And then the son was like, oh man, I know you've been such a, agreed full greed mode this whole time, and I'm really glad he did. And he's like, wait, well, I didn't say I wasn't. I just said not now. I didn't see that coming. I should have, because I always like to wait for like the little plot twist or like what's the catch, to this. And when he said that, I was like, okay, all right, I get it now. And they get into that little scuffle with the, he's like, just take off the ring, just prove it, and the ring, of course, is not going to let him. And he's going to say, I don't have to prove anything. I saw that coming. You see that coming. He's not going to take off the ring. Then we go to his wife in the cave, and she does her chant, and all those big bats come out or whatever. I don't even know what they were.
Yeah, I don't know what those were. Yeah.
It came out of there and scared all the other the 7 dwarves away that were down there. And when she did that, what I thought was going to happen is that they were going to see the demon that was in that water make a noise. That's what I thought would have made sense. And it would have been like, oh, what is that? Yeah, maybe we should. And maybe we should tell the king too. But no, she did this whole scare the bats thing away. Like, why wouldn't you just show them like what you heard? See,
and then, I think something like that's coming, J-Ren. I think something like that is coming. I don't know if it's this season, but that's a good thought.
Yeah. I mean, it just seemed like if you were in that direction, but it's all for the plot, because we know where this is going. We all know where this is going already. So of course, they're not going to do the things that are going to stop it. Just lead up to it. And I mean, that's kind of some of the stuff that I remember from that scene.
Okay, Cyber.
Jeffrey.
Okay. Well, first off, the dwarfs. I've always enjoyed the dwarfs in the Lord of the Rings movies, Hobbit series, stuff like that. They've always been great characters. I think King Durin the Fourth is an interesting character, but sometimes he's just a little bitch. And I absolutely can't stand that. And having his wife kind of be like telling him what to do is like totally like, I feel just bad writing. And so I'm not a big fan of her character. I think she's okay. I feel that she's had a lot less screen time this time around, so I've been happy with that. But overall, the dwarfs, the whole storyline, showing that the dwarfs are just as capable of being deceived by the rings. I think this is a really great way of showing that, especially with King Durin himself, basically possessed by the ring, not willing to give it up, hitting his son and so forth. So I think that's a really great storytelling to basically give you kind of an idea of how the rings are and kind of what, why these rings are considered so evil, and, why Sauron wants them, why, these are, the reason why Frodo needed to take the ring he had to, Mount Mordor and stuff like that. So I think that was a really good indication of that. My favorite part of this episode was the underwater scene with the worm, the tentacles. And yeah, I agree. I think that looked really fantastic. The look, the CGI and everything about it was just so much fun. I was expecting a little more out of like the scene, but still, it was still really done. It was like my favorite part of the whole film. Her basically giving herself to that creature was just super awesome. And I think that was kind of one of those great little throw-ins of like a great creature from the Lord of the Rings, realm. Kind of like what they did with, I think it was the first episode where it showed basically Sauron coming back to life. But at one point, that one particular character was stuck in Shelob's lair. We saw all the spiders. And that was like my favorite part of that episode, because that was just so freaking cool looking. And so anytime they bring in one of these like giant monsters, that is like my favorite part about these. It's kind of like why I love the Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans, and stuff like that. Creatures are just always fun to watch, especially, mythical, crazy creatures, dragons, so forth. And they just always make it very exciting and enjoyable. And that creature was super awesome. So I'm hoping we get to see it again. If we don't, we don't. But if we do, great. But that was, I think, my highlight of this episode was that little scene. But the whole like them like taking that trial and making it a big portion of the episode too, I thought was kind of interesting to kind of show the as we mentioned, the political aspects of kind of the thought process in the Lord of the Rings universe. And I think it's kind of interesting how it kind of plays out, where just kind of like the real justice system, it sometimes it gets it wrong. And I think that's kind of what they were showing here. And I think they did a good job with that. But like the Stranger and Tom Bombadil, who is actually played by Rory Kinnear. He was actually in that Men movie that came out a couple years ago. That was a huge success. He actually is a great bit actor, and I have enjoyed his Tom Bombadil. I think he's done a really good job with the character. And but overall, just like the Royal Geek podcast kind of mentioned, I feel like that's a kind of a story they don't really need there. It's kind of filler a little bit, I felt too as well. And I think that they could have steered away from that more and gave more attention to other portions of kind of the story. Because as we mentioned, I feel too, is there's so many different storylines going on, and it's kind of hard to condense all those stories into an hour-long episode and try to, connect them all throughout all the, 8 episodes of the series of the season. So, I mean, sometimes, it's better to cut certain things out and maybe come back to it in another season or another movie or something like that. And I think that kind of the Strangers storyline, I feel is kind of one of those storylines that could be progressed further on down the road. Especially if he's going to be, like, as some have suggested, if he's going to be, character that we have known from the other films and so forth, or if he is going to be Gandalf, which they keep mentioning. And, I mean, there's so many different outcomes that he could be. And he could even go as far as not even being a character we know. So it's one of those characters that I feel that the storyline they don't really need. And kind of, I feel that was probably the most unnecessary storyline in this episode. But up to this point, there's lots of great things that go on here. I really enjoyed it. And overall, this is probably my favorite part of the episode, simply for the fact of that great sea creature. Really great portion of the film, or episode.
Okay. So elsewhere in Rune, Nori and Poppy are with the stores. Little happens here, but we do get a few nice conversations, developments of motivations, etc. This is how you make a slow-paced plot feel satisfying, not like the dawdling mess in episode 5. The leader of the stores tells Nori about not being able to leave because this is their home. It hits home emotionally with Nori having spent her life looking for home and never finding it. And finally, Poppy and nobody tell each other how they feel and kiss. This embedded love story is not the heartwarming, positive thing about the Rings of Power I was expecting, but I like it anyway. Nothing wrong with a bit of whimsy. And the episode concludes with the bombardment of Eregion by Adar's orc force. And that's how we close out. Is Celebrimbor working on the rings for men with the orcs, at the walls of the city, right? I'll start with you, Cyber. Your thoughts on the end of the episode, sir?
The end of the episode is pretty, good still. I think a good part of this episode. And we get a lot of great things that are going on at the end here. We get some, great kind of tidbits that lead into kind of a little bit of a cliffhangers and give us kind of a good idea of, where things are going. Because as we saw in this episode, basically where, Galadriel and her captor, basically they're trying to create this collusion to work together, basically. And, it's one of those things that you're like, ooh, orcs. I love seeing orcs fight. And you're like, you see that right at the end of the episode, and you're like, oh, they cut it right off before they got to some good stuff. Like, God damn it. But at the same time, seeing that kind of gives you an idea of kind of where it's leading. And I think they did a good job of giving us, where they're pushing that towards. And I think that scene where, Galadriel is kind of like, as she's being taken away and saying, you're doing what Sauron wants you. You're letting Sauron to tell you what to do is a great, kind of, thought process showing kind of, is Galadriel kind of starting to wake up here finally, seeing that these rings are bad and that they're, there is something, evil about them, and they're causing the people to act different. And so I think that was a really great scene. I thought it was really well played out by both, all the actors involved. And, kind of closing out the episode, it's, like I said, pretty clean cut, pretty leading into the next episode, kind of where it's going. The Poppy, scene with the light puts and stuff like that was pretty short and pretty basic. Nothing really major there. Kind of gives you a little more clue into what they are up to and where they're at. Because of course we spent like, I don't know what, like maybe 10 minutes with the stranger trying to find out where they've gone. So we kind of get that brief moment, kind of giving us an idea where they're at. Still with that other little person, and leaving, trying to get Snookies, which we all know Jeff doesn't like, because Lori's his gal, and so we gotta get that going too a little bit with that little bit of that Lightfoot action. And I think overall, just the whole last portion of the episode gives you a good indication that we're going to get into some really great action. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. I think that it was a pretty solid ending to the episode, and I think it's leading us into some really great things, because this was just a really great episode that really lifted itself up from the last episode.
Nori is a fine motherfucker, without question. But J-Red 2000.
Yep. What about the ending?
Yes, sir.
You know what I think about the ending? I like it. Left it on a little cliffhanger. The orcs at the city, and the city in chaos, and that's where we got to see like the elf's mind all manipulated. And he goes outside, and he's like, "Oh, everything's fine. Everything's all peaches and cream outside. Kids are laughing. The elders are having conversations, and the women are knitting or whatever it is that they're doing." And he gets duped. I thought elves had like strong mental capacities, but I guess that's just the mental duress that he's been throughout the whole episode that's kind of weakened him to fall into this mind trap or whatever. The one story I don't care about, and you're gonna hate me, and it's like the main thing I guess with the whole thing is like halflings. That story is so bland to me, and then make it like a love story, and I'm just like, all right, sure, why not cool. We're talking about like they have no homes, and I don't even care where they live, right? Who cares? Like, you live here, you go here. What is the point of all that? Get to the story. What is your part in here? Like, we get it, Frodo, and you go back to Lord of the Rings. Sorry, Frodo was on a mission, because everybody thought the halflings were useless in Lord of the Rings, but his purpose was that he had enough, some type of willpower or innocence to deliver the ring. But what is their point here? They don't do anything, and they aren't doing anything in this show other than be the friend of the stranger. Maybe it is Gandalf. I don't know, because he's got an affinity for halflings or whatever you want to call them. So just with that, and then we don't even know where the Dark Wizard is. He shows up in there. What happened to him? Where does he go? Is he going to come with that episode and do something too? A lot of things going on. This episode wasn't bad, even though I'm making probably sound bad with all the negatives and stuff. Because I like the action that it's getting to. Like, we're getting to that point, like stuff's about to go down, and that's what I want. That's what I feel like people want to see. They want to see the stuff go down. They want to see the battle, the nitty gritty. We're getting the story. It does well to give us information we wanted without having to go through all the battles. And I like the episode. I was able to focus the whole time through this one. So I'm okay with it. I like the ending. It was fine.
Okay. Gentlemen from Royal Geek Podcast, in whatever direction you want to take it, make it interesting. Your thoughts on the finale of the episode?
Yeah. So I know I like what Cyber said when Galadriel's getting she's getting yanked away, and she's like screaming like, "You're doing exactly what Sauron wanted." wanted. And then Adar is just like so like caught up in, I want to destroy Sauron so bad that I'm going to go ahead and overpower him with this army. Even though Galadriel's making some great points here, he doesn't have an army. How can he be stopped? Well, you're bringing him an army, that kind of thing, which I think the way that's going to play out is it's got to be pretty twisted as far as manipulation of an entire army is what's going to have to happen with Sauron. But the biggest thing that I think the takeaway at the ending was Anatar and just showing the joy and peace that's going on to Celebrimbor to keep him kind of in the tower to build the rings. That's huge, because when that fades away, like Shimano said in the beginning, like the reality stone, it like fades away, and it's chaos, women and children screaming, and there's fire and chaos. Like it truly feels like a doomsday scenario, and he's just doing this like slow strut through the courtyard, and like the episode ends with like the camera kind of panning up to Anatar's face, and he just kind of gives that look like this dude is so in control, so powerful, that everything is working out so just the way he wanted it to. And he gives that little smirk that Shimano was talking about. And it is, I think this is Anatar's game, and like everybody is players and pawns to that, and they don't realize it. And he is the one to just completely own everything right now. Like he's kind of gotten control over like multiple storylines right now, and like I feel like he's gonna have a part in like whatever the dwarves are dealing with, because essentially he's in control of the king right now, essentially, because the power is corrupted, and the dwarf rings are kind of under that corruption, and the only true thing that could stop him is the elven rings, because they're not corrupt. They're still they're available to be used against him, but they are so out of like out of touch with what's really going on. Like they're so discombobulated, they can't organize enough to get to go against Anatar. So I love that final sequence with Anatar, and like I'm really looking forward to how this next episode pops off.
Yep, thought it was a good ending. Don't have too much else to say, I don't think. Again, I think it was, we mentioned it earlier, but I think it was towards the ending where when he's got Celebrimbor in an illusion, and he gives him the mithril. I'm going to quote unquote mithril. So if it is real mithril, then it's like, I wish they would have shown how he would have got it, because that would have been really cool and clever to see, which leads me to think it's probably not mithril, and he's actually playing a trick on Celebrimbor. But then if it's not mithril, then it wouldn't be able to be like, I think it just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. Only thing I'll say is I got a prediction that I think in the position that Galadriel is, like she is, chained up,
Captured again.
Captured right now with Adar's army. Arondir's got to be the one that's going to save her.
Yeah,
it's got to be, because he's going to intercept the army. He already intercepted a couple orcs, kill him off. But yeah, good ending, good episode. Excited for more to come.
Yeah, I was 100% going to bring up, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see Galadriel getting pulled away, and Arondir's going to just see like a woman getting pulled away by like 3 or 4 orcs, and he's going to step in, and then that's going to get the ball rolling on that part of it.
Yep.
I think with the Harfoot stores, I think it was, although it seems like it's not really going anywhere, I think it's important because it's telling you a lot about how the Shire is going to come into place. You have these ideas of the idea of almost essentially traveling an adventure, and you're having staying at put and staying at home, which essentially become the 2 biggest staples of the hobbits in the Shire. Like the idea of adventure, even though with Frodo and Bilbo, and then you have the idea of the connection to home, coming from the store. So you're actually seeing that like foundation being built in their culture by when they are talking. And then I think I'm glad with the whole Poppy and Nobody storyline that they just got it over with, because I felt like that could have been one of those things where they just left it like will they, won't they, and when we know they will, for like, the longest period of time. So I'm happy that was like, okay, like they meet, there's obviously a spark, they don't play around, they get to the point. So I will say I did enjoy the fact that at that point they decided to like jump ahead and be like, okay, we're going to get to the point on this one. One last little part about the stranger. I feel like we're about to get a situation almost like Jesus in the desert, where essentially he's going to be going out into the wilderness, and there's a decent possibility there may be some temptations out there. Maybe the evil wizard will be, trying to push him in one direction. Maybe he'll use Nori and Poppy being in danger as a pull in one direction, and then he's trying, like, he's figuring out his path, how he wants to go. Is he going to go with the staff? Is he going to save his friends? Will their evil wizard be trying to essentially, like we've been saying a lot of, corrupt him the way that Anatar is corrupting like the rings, and that's spreading out. Going to Eregion, I do think, like I said, I think Arondir has a decent chance of saving saving Galadriel, and then them kind of joining up and becoming part of this. I think there's a really good chance that in this next episode we have 50% or more in battle, and I think there's gonna be a lot of those pieces coming together, and because a lot of times in modern television that we've seen, the penultimate episode is where you get a lot of the action. Like that's where like a lot of like the final dominoes like hit. It's how it always was with the like Game of Thrones. Episode 9 was where the big stuff happened. You would have like all those really big ones like the Red Wedding, Adar being decapitated. We're all in episode 9 of the season. So it allows you to then have an entire episode to kind of wind down and kind of like set you up for the next season. So I really think this next episode could be what we may really think of when we think of like a true finale, and the fact that like all the action and storylines are going to really have their most poignant moments kind of like come clashing together for this season.
J-Right, you got to go?
Yeah, I do.
If you need to dip, go ahead and dip.
Okay. Well, I thought we were already at the end, right?
We're going to do ratings and everything, so.
Okay.
I didn't know if you needed to take off. If you needed to take off, I was going to just let you go.
Okay. Yeah. I'll leave. I'll tell you my rating right now out of 5 stars. I'll give it about a 4.5.
Okay. All right. We appreciate that. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Sorry it took me so long to get a hold of you.
No, it's okay. It's fine. It's all right. I figure we already made it to the end, right? And it can't be much more longer, huh?
We're almost done. Yeah. But you said 5 minutes, so I just, it was 5 minutes. That's why I wanted to say something.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll take off. I appreciate you guys having me on.
No problem, brother. We're glad to see you again.
Nice meeting you at the Royal Geek Podcast.
Yeah. See you, Jay.
Yeah. We'll see you around. I'll be here next week, guys. See you later.
All right, J-Rat. We appreciate you, brother.
Take it easy.
All right. Cyber, your rating?
I give it a solid 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10. I thought it was a really great episode. It was a way better improvement from the last episode. I really was entertained by it. And that sea monster, it gets a 10 out of 10 no matter what. I loved it. It was fantastic. So it gets a solid 10 out of 10 and 5 out of 5.
Okay. You got gentlemen from the Rogue Geek Podcast. Give me your ratings.
Yeah, I think it's like a solid 9. It was a good episode. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I'd go 9 as well. If we're doing out of 10, I'd say 9. I very much enjoyed it. I don't have many critiques of it.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be like, that person, but like, I would probably say 9 too. I know we were kind of all like in lockstep, in this situation. But I feel like it was a super solid episode. I don't think it really lacked really anywhere. The only parts I didn't like were just because I didn't like certain characters. But that's just because of who the character is.
We're united over here at 9.
I will give it an 8.5. And I will move us over to go ahead and do our plugs. Cyberneticshark, I'll start with you. Guys from Real Geek Podcast, we appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
All right, folks. So if you enjoy me on the panel, or if you enjoy me as a moderator on the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, you can check out my solo content. You can find me under Cyberneticshark. Find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, X, Patreon, Facebook, everywhere pretty much. You can check us out. You can check me out. You can check out all my good content there. As you can see, my most recent couple of videos there is Alien Romulus review, and of course the trailer reaction to the upcoming Sonic 3. And my most recent, of course, little shorts, of course, were for Speak No Evil and the Killers game. Haven't seen anything new recently yet, so no new shorts yet. But yeah, be having more content up for you guys soon, more reviews, more trailer reactions, all that kind of good stuff. And just keep on trucking, keep on liking, keep on subscribing, and check out the Patreon page where we get all kinds of extra stuff you don't get here on the YouTube channel. Such as outtakes, bloopers, all that kind of good stuff. So definitely check that out, and all kinds of cool stuff on there. But anyways, yeah, if you like this, you like the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, keep on watching the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, and keep on subscribing to us too.
Okay, and then I'm assuming it's probably you, Justin, that wants to go ahead and talk for the Rogue Geek Podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it every time. Rogue Geek Podcast, man. We are just like some average Joes reviewing some cool stuff, man. Everything in the geek world. We're currently doing Rings of Power as well on our feed, and we are going to start Agatha All Along. That'll be dropping this weekend. We have strong ties with Marvel content, and so yeah, like I mean, MCU Bleeding Edge. Obviously, you guys have some great conversations on Marvel as well. But yeah, we just like geeking out over superheroes, fantasy, sci-fi. So yeah, come check us out, and subscribe wherever you guys are, and at Royal Geek Pod on all of our socials.
Yeah. Apple, Spotify. We are on YouTube. YouTube's not too active, but you can find us there as well. But yeah, it's awesome to be on here. So thanks a lot.
All right, you heard it, folks. We appreciate you guys coming on. Justin, I'll get you the file for this show so you can put it up on your channel. And folks out there, we appreciate everybody in the comment section. We appreciate everybody supporting us tonight during the live stream. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday with JRod 2000 for episode 7 of the Rings of Power. Peace.
Don't even look like y'all can walk. Oh shit, she had the Heisman on her ass. Oh shit. Lean with it, rock with it. The zombies. Mr. Lee, what's wrong with them?
I don't know, but it's looking good.
Look, hey, Solomon, what's wrong with him, Solomon?
Yoda, boy.
Smile for the camera. Say hi. Say hi. Oh, she can't even respond. Oh, shit.